And we're recording. Good morning, comrades. This is the Good Morning Comrade Show, and you are listening to 102.3 WHIV New Orleans. You might not be listening because it might be either Tuesday or Thursday. You might be just listening to us in the podcast. I don't know. To be honest, this is Robert. I'm putting this show in the can, and I don't know when we're going to release it. So I'm just going to make it safe to release on the radio. And so that's the beauty of recording. Like, you guys get to listen to it in the future.
Real quick, I don't mean to ruin your intro.
Yes.
WHIV.
Yeah, we can talk about that.
That's a very interesting name.
Yeah.
Okay.
We could totally talk about that. So first, I want to and if you hear this other disembodied voice that you're not used to listening to,
hey.
This is Andrea, also known as Cyber Demon. What's the numerals after that?
531. That is my date of birth.
I keep wanting to say 513 because that's an Ohio area code where I used to live. But
that's a shame.
So you can find Andrea on YouTube at Cyber Demon 531, and I would say that she is a political YouTuber. Would you call yourself that? Would you call yourself part of the BreadTube army? I
don't know about the BreadTube army. I don't believe in armies. I'm a pacifist. Not really, but yes, I do my own thing. I try to communicate with other people, but I'm really bad at that. So I just kind of wait for people to ask me to come on their show, and then I do that. I'm really bad at marketing. So that's why I'm here, because you asked me to come on.
I appreciate that. I wanna roll back, and we'll get into like Andrea's whole story and the whole kit caboodle in just a moment. But actually, that's a good question. I think like you asked about the radio station, and I think like a lot of like old time listeners who've been listening for, I don't know, forever already know this story. They know I'm gonna butcher this story because I'm just riffing off the top of my head. I'm not like trying to Google this in the moment. So forgive me, Dr. Mark Allen. But so before the radio station was had all these different shows, and like I think Sam, I don't know the lineup. We get syndicated shows. I think David Pakman follows our show. We get syndicated from all over the country and whatnot. Sam Cedar's on it the whole day. Yeah, that's I'm name dropping right now. So
wow,
he's super impressed. That's funny that you say that though, because whenever I try to do like media, I was like, oh yeah, we're the lead in for David Pakman, and people go, oh, okay, I want to be on your show. Like yeah. He has no idea who we are. So
you gotta get him on.
The guy who started this radio station is it's Dr. Mark Allen Derry, and he is an infectious disease pathologist, and he started this radio station as a station for like people who were infected with HIV and who could get like news and views and like a safe space like to talk about this kind of stuff. And then the station just kind of morphed from there into just like kind of a lefty indie music like New Orleans juggernaut of a station. But that's the reason for the call letters. I'm butchering this extremely, but I think I need to verse myself even more in like the history of the station, because it is like really important to the community. But yeah, it's like you can actually listen to him. He's Dr. Mark Allen is the guy who goes like if there's an Ebola outbreak, like he's the one, like he's gone, like he's in wherever trying to put out whatever infectious disease fires all over the world. When the Surgeon General wanted information about like, hey, what's going on in New Orleans, like he's the guy with Corona. He's the guy like the government talks to. He also does a show. If you go on WHIV's Facebook right now, he does a show every day at 4:00 and gives you the updates on like what's going on with Corona. So it's like, yeah, infectious disease and like leftist politics are like his wheelhouse, and he started the station out of the good of his heart and supplied all the equipment and like paid the rent on the place and like the whole deal. So he's like
pretty awesome.
He's pretty sweet. So going on to that, let's talk. We've talked enough about the station. We've talked enough about my boss that doesn't pay us because it's community radio. Uh, let's talk about you. And the reason why I asked you to come on is because you've actually filled like a space in my day with your YouTube content. Because when I'm at work and I'm just like, it's 3:00, 4:00, and it's like I'm really not trying to like drink another cup of coffee or an energy drink, trying to stay up. Like your content like gets me through the day, and it's now become like a thing that I'm like looking forward to, and it's hilarious. It's like, I would definitely say, we talked offline earlier and you were talking about, oh, I don't know much about like, you know, BreadTube or like quote unquote like the dirtbag left. I would definitely put you in like the dirtbag left, to where
Oh
like
God, no.
no, like you wouldn't describe yourself as that. I say that because like your language is like very straightforward.
Yeah,
It's like
I don't
it's
know
for the
about that,
proletariat. It's for the
right?
common person.
Yeah, I am. My whole thing, is that I am a real person. I don't put on any sort of caricature. I'm not like a cartoon character. I mean, you know, maybe a little sometimes, but you know, I try to just be very, very blunt, straightforward, and just try to communicate in a way that anybody should be able to understand. At least that's
Right.
the goal. I mean, sometimes I get carried away talking about like some bizarre thing that no one cares about, but you know, that's the idea.
I don't. Yeah, that's that. And that's like why I really like personally I gravitated towards the show, is because it's in such like the kind of content you do. Is it here's the question I want to ask you: is it purposeful the way that you um your content is very bite-sized and like easy to digest? It's never over like it's never over 10 minutes like any of your videos, and it reminds
Sometimes they are, but that's an exception and not the
right.
rule.
Have you ever heard of a guy named I'm definitely aging myself. You ever heard of a guy named Wesley Willis?
I'm afraid not.
So Wesley Willis was a um rest his soul. He was a schizophrenic um musician who he opened for people like, at the end of his life, he opened for people like the Beastie Boys and like all these national acts, and he kind of created a cult following because he wrote these very simple songs. Like the his big hit was Rock and Roll McDonald's. But the point of this is that he had a theory that the perfect song length was like 3 minutes and 28 seconds, because I think Chuck Berry had a song that was that and was super popular, and that's what he like hung on to. Like, do you kind of calculate your content like that? Like, do you start making a video and go, okay, I've hit this is the optimal time for a video, or do you just go until like you kind of like, I'm done with this topic?
So sometimes, and I'm going to be very brazen here. Sometimes if I'm at like the 7-minute mark, I'll be like, YouTube just updated their ad thing, and you can put ads in the middle of 8-minute videos. So sometimes I'm at a 7-minute video, I'll just come up with something, hit that 8-minute mark, and then go like, all right, fuck yeah. Or rather, all right.
You're good.
Anyway, but normally I just kind of just go until I kind of run out of things to say. I try to always make a subject not just about the news itself, but try to extrapolate it onto more kind of like try to reach in and put that into like a broader narrative. So like if I'm going to talk about like a specific protest, I don't want to just provide details on that protest, because honestly, I'm not a journalist. You know, I don't go there. I'm not, you know, I don't know the details outside of what I'm reading. So I like to just try to attach that to like the overall, you know, like narrative or the idea of, you know, like we mentioned before, is like, I personally think the United States is a failed state in decline. I think it is an empire that is on the verge of collapse, at least without any sort of, like, if the current political structure stays the same, and with Biden being the best alternative that we can even hope of at the moment, it's looking like that's like kind of where we're heading. So I try to, like, if I'm going to talk about, you know, a rent strike or some sort of, you know, like the Portland protests when the feds were there, I always try to bring that into like the whole idea of like, you need to understand that like this country is falling apart at the seams. And so like I'll usually spend like maybe the first half of the video talking about the actual subject matter, and then I just try to wrap it into what's happening overall. That way, if people come in, if that's like, I try to make every video so that if someone watches just that video, they get a very good understanding of my politics and my personality. That's kind of like the goal. So it's not much about length, but kind of like, sometimes I'll speak more drawn out. Sometimes I'll speak more quickly. It's more about getting the message out.
Right. Well, that's like I'm sure like we're talking shop right now about like two content creators. Let's talk about how you got here, like how you got to America's a failed state. I've seen your videos where you knock doors for Bernie, so I would just go ahead and call it your like tell me about your quote unquote Bernie journey, or just how you got to being a leftist. How did you form your political ideas?
I mean, it's complicated. Um, I experienced a lot of poverty when I was a child. I'm only 24, so I'm a youngster. I've got energy. I'm also trans, and as a result, I didn't have a childhood. Like the first 21 years of my life were basically non-existent. At least, if you talk to trans people, it's kind of like the broad message is like, yeah, before we transitioned, we were just kind of on autopilot. So like I experienced a lot of childhood poverty. I never really put that many things together. Around like when I was 16 or so was when my family was evicted, and that was like a very traumatic life altering event. And then around when I was 18 was when like the 2016 election started firing up, because they start doing that thing like a year beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I was like, I'll pay attention to it. Like, why not? This is like the thing that's happening. This will be my first election I can vote in. And then that's when I see like Bernie Sanders go up there and say a bunch of stuff like, what about the people with no health insurance? And I'm like, whoa, what about me? Right. And so it was like just kind of like one of those things where it's like, I've always experienced like a lot of like, awful things like related to poverty. And I never really had that kind of political thing to it. And then that combined with like, obviously 2016 happened, it came and went. I didn't really do anything outside of that. One of the things in my life that I've always kind of done is I've always had a YouTube channel. Basically, I've had this for 10 years since I was about 14. And it's just kind of like a very, something I didn't put that much effort into until I was like maybe 17. And then I realized like I have no friends. Like once I got kind of more of a stable housing again, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to try to do YouTube, because like I dropped out of high school because I had chronic illness as a kid. So I basically just had nothing, and I was like, I'm just going to do internet. And so I started doing like YouTube. I started doing Twitch live streams and all that stuff. And then like once the 2016 election came around, I was really afraid of being political online, because like, gamers, right? Like gamers are not the kindest bunch. And so I was like kind of hesitant to be political online. I kind of just like was like centristy online. I'd be very, I'd just do whatever would get attention. I used to be like a very much so an attention seeker. I mean, I still am, but like that's not important right now. I used to be very much so an attention seeker. So I would just kind of do whatever I would like online. And then like, around that, like around 2017, I was like, I really, that's where I started making money online. I had like a really interesting success period, and I can, abbreviate by saying I worked for a streaming website, and I can go way in depth on that maybe another time.
Sure. I'd love, yeah.
But
Love to hear about
so
that kind of stuff.
I started working for a streaming website, and I was like, for the first time in my life, I had money. Like I went from never having a job, like just being very impoverished, to all of a sudden I'm making like $3,000 a month playing like children's games online. And so like that was like really wild. And then like so I started getting money, and then I realized money is not good. Like there's nothing I can really do here. Like if I save up enough money, maybe I can move, but then like it's not like, I don't know about that, like family and all that stuff. And then I realized that like this whole thing, I'm trans, and 2017 was the year I started transitioning publicly, and that was something that I was very afraid of, because again, as I mentioned earlier, gamers are not the kindest bunch. So that was like something I was really afraid of. But then I realized like now that I've got money, I can just kind of do it, and like I don't care what they say. And so that was the collapse of my streaming career.
Mhm.
Is I lost a lot of followers from coming out as trans, but the final step was when I came out as a communist. And then like everyone that was like, they could deal with me being trans, but they can't deal with me being a communist. How dare I want poor people to have healthcare and food, right? Like that's just, oh no. And then around 2018, I started to like kind of give up streaming. 2019 for me, you know, I started to get really political. I started reading a lot, watching a lot of podcasts. You know, I basically shifted my main focus from gaming to politics, but my job, so to speak, was gaming, and I didn't really want to infringe upon that until I knew what I was talking about. So I spent like 2018 and 2019 kind of studying, reading books, watching documentaries, listening to podcasts, and kind of learning and shaping what my worldview was. And then obviously Bernie jumped in the race again, and that was like, I got to start getting into this, because now this is the time where like I can actually, you know, there's a vehicle for me to actually kind of make any sort of change. And so in 2020, literally like the first week of 2020 was like, I'm just going to start above it all. You know, like I've been kind of workshopping it for a few months. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to start it now because it's 2020. You know, the election's coming up, you know, Iowa's soon. I'm just going to start and we'll go from there. I would say I went from like apolitical to like socialist leaning, you know, but not really, you know, just not educated, just like, yeah, I want free stuff, kind of like, you know, to put it, you know, succinctly. And I started being like communist anarchist around 2018. And then, you know, I've always been that, you know, so I did do Bernie campaigning, but I also, at the current moment, I live in North Carolina. So it's like a red state. I live in a rural area in a red state. So there's not much local stuff I can do.
Right.
For more context, I also lived in DC for a while, up until last year. And I had a big falling out with my family because they did not like me being trans, so they kicked me out. So I went to go live with my brother in North Carolina. So I was like, I can't really do anything on the ground here. So it's like, I'm just, you know, really I have this YouTube channel. I gave up streaming. I don't really post much to it. I might as well make it a political channel. And so that's kind of where I'm at now. And then, you know, 2020, I've been doing the show. I usually do it every day. I don't take many days off. Yesterday, I took a day off because I was sick, but I don't really take many days off. I usually just do 7 days a week, and I upload as many videos as I have the energy to do. And so, yeah, so I you know, I was like, well, the Bernie campaign has these opportunities where like you can do.
You froze.
Hello?
Yeah, you froze. It's okay.
I froze. Yeah, my internet cuts out a lot because
Fine.
I live in bum bleep North Carolina, so my internet cuts out a lot. It's not great.
Y'all got satellite or what internet are you working with?
I have cable, but you know, it's not good. It's not good. Yeah, it's yeah.
Well, you got. Well, I don't want to just a company in case we're on the air, but yeah, our local internet's real bad.
Yeah, I went from in DC. I had like, you know, the fucking I had the fiber. I was good to go. I could like stream 1080p, and now I'm here. Yeah. And one of the things was like when I moved down here, I couldn't stream anymore, so I just kind of gave up. And I was like, I can just do YouTube videos instead.
Right.
Yeah. So then someone organized a carpool down the East Coast for Bernie Sanders, door knocking in South Carolina. So I was like, I'm in that, you know, that pathway. Let me try to hitch a ride there. And then I did, and that was a very, very, very interesting experience.
Yeah, what was that like as a trans woman? Because like even like being I door knocked for. I was actually a I'm gonna go ahead and give myself some clout. I was actually a delegate for Sanders in 16. And
wow! Oh my!
Yeah, I've got like we'll talk about it later sometime. But yeah, I went to Philly, like the whole nine.
I remember watching that in the comfort of my bedroom, crying.
Yeah, a lot of us did. It was terrible. But like I've door knocked outside of New Orleans in like rural Louisiana as like a 6 foot, 280-pound black guy, like going up to like people's doors, and that was like a whole experience. Like, what was that like for you as like a trans woman, like door knocking in the South?
I'll be honest.
That's brave.
Nothing happened. No, there were no altercations. I guess no one noticed. I don't know. So I got really lucky there. You know, my thing was like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, you know, there's a good chance I'm gonna die. You know, like
right.
Non-zero, maybe like 10% chance. You know, something like that. But I had no issues. I didn't, you know. I didn't mention that I was trans to anybody. I don't even think I mentioned that I was trans to the people I was carpooling with. I don't know if they picked up on it and didn't say anything. I don't know. I guess I blend in pretty well. You know, I can hide it, but I didn't have many issues with that. Honestly, I think I experienced more sexism for being a woman than transphobia, to be honest.
That's funny you say that, because I didn't experience any issues either. Like, it was weird because the people who, well, obviously, like the people who are door knocking are already registered Democrats.
Right.
But these are like Democrats who live in like the Lakeview area and rural Louisiana, which are just like rich, centristy, like white people. And I was like, man, I thought this would be like a lot harder than it is. But what I think why I got like a decent reception where people were like, oh, I'll listen to this guy talk to me or whatever. I had one old woman, I think it was the hatred for Hillary Clinton. I had one old woman go, I don't know who he is. And I go, okay, let me tell you. And she goes, wait, is he running against that woman? And I said, yes, ma'am, he is. I will vote for him. And
Amazing.
I was
Amazing.
like, check. Thank you so much. Yeah, it was like so many people hated Hillary Clinton. They were just like, yeah, anything but.
Yeah, when I was door knocking in South Carolina, it was really interesting because like there's like, you know, I was in Columbia, I think. Yeah, Columbia, which is like where I think it's the capital. I don't know. I don't live in South Carolina. It's one of those major cities. I think it's the capital. Is it? It might be. It's one of them. I don't know.
South Carolina?
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those. But yeah, so there were these like there are so many areas where there'd be like a major road, and then there'd be like the poor side, and then there'd be like the middle class side. On the poor side, it was people that were just default Biden because they don't know anything and they didn't really pay attention. And then, you know, those where I'd have like the really interesting conversations. It's like, yeah, Bernie's running. He was, you know, running last time and he was against Hillary, and, you know, he wants the Medicare for all. And that usually, you know, sprung people too. Yeah. But then there was also like the anti-Trump, can Bernie really beat Trump thing? There was like, that was the biggest issue because people had this idea, especially after Clyburn did that endorsement, that like Biden was the guy to beat Trump. And I remember, like, you know, they tell you not to have like 20-minute conversations with one person because, you know, it's all about numbers and stuff. But I had like a 20-minute conversation with a poor old woman who was like, but I just want to beat Trump. And it's like, yeah, but Bernie's actually the best positioned for that because he doesn't have that many skeletons in his closet. And like, I started going on, like, you know, doing like a YouTube spiel, you know, like giving like a history lesson. And then, you know, like that usually worked. At least they would tell me. I don't know if that's because they were sick of listening to me or whatever, but that usually worked. And then I go to the other side where like there's the middle class people, and that's where you get all the Andrew Yangs, the Pete Buttigieg's. Oh, I love Amy Klobuchar, and it's just like,
you saw Pete Buttigieg in the wild. Wow. Like even New Orleans, we have a very like vibrant LGBTQ population. I don't know a gay person in the city who has any love for Pete Buttigieg.
I met two people.
Whoa.
2 people. And you know, you have like the clipboard with the Bernie stuff on it, so they know who you are basically instantly. I also have my little button on my cap. So you know, I'm decked out. I got the swag, as the kids would say, I think. And so I remember like my first Pete Buttigieg voter. I knock on their door, and like this is like the first time I went on to like the middle class side of the town, and it's like, you know, they don't have a yard sign or anything. So I knock on the door, and I'm like, hi, I'm with the Bernie campaign. Do you have a few minutes to talk about, you know, the election or whatever? And they're like, I would never vote for Bernie. I have kids to worry about. And that was like, I know. I was like, and then you know, you're not supposed to argue. So I'm like, all right, well, you have a good one. And, you know, do you want a flyer? And they're like, no. And then they slam the door in my face. And I like, that was like the rest of that weekend or whatever. I was thinking about that interaction. It's like, I have kids to worry about. Like,
oh, that is harsh though. When you're door knocking and you get somebody like that, or when you're like you're doing the what was that thing called? Not the robo dialer, whatever they call it. Like you know, you dial and like you get the thing, and you'd have a million good ones. And I swear it's like they're like golf shots or like playing poker. You only remember your bad hands, and you get somebody like that, it just sticks in your craw like all day.
It's more about like I really wanted to like debate this person because I'm a very abrasive, argumentative person. Like one of my things on YouTube is I reply, at least to my capabilities, to every single comment.
You do?
Yeah, I try my best, especially like the ones who hate me and like the Trumpers, because it's funny. And one of the other secret strategies here is that when they reply, they reload the video,
Yep.
give you more views. Chances are, if they're boomers, they don't have ad block, so they let the ad play multiple times. You know, it's just a little strategy for y'all.
Yeah, take it from Andrea, kids. If you're trying to be a budding YouTube star, YouTube does not care about what kind of doesn't care about what kind of engagement you're getting. All it cares about is engagement.
Exactly. And because they hate trans people so much, they'll just like call me a man over and over again. And I'm like, oh, thanks. You know, it's just great because they don't realize it. But yeah, no, like my thing was like, I'm not supposed to debate with them and I don't want to give the campaign a bad name, but Jesus, I really want to like go back to their house and just ask them what was going through their mind when they said, I have kids to worry about.
That's funny though. I have oh no, go ahead.
No, you're good.
I was gonna say, I have a distinct strategy on that, and I would tell you why you would be quote unquote wrong to do that. Like I'm all about like trying to dunk on those people and trying to like debate those people, as long as you realize that you're never going to change their mind. Like you might, at best, you might plant a seed that might grow later, but you're never going to change. You're never going to, it doesn't matter. They could say the sky's pink and you're telling them it's blue. If they want to hold on to that and try to save face, they're going to hold on to that view no matter what logic you throw at them. But when it does matter is when you have a crowd, because when you let that person like you're like, why do you want to, my wife is always like, poor Erin, she's like, who are you fighting? She can hear me she can hear me. And she's like, why are you fighting these people online? And I go, because you can't give them any space. Like you can't let those people dominate the space, because if you let them dominate the space, the crowd, just the casual like normie viewer or listener is just going to be like, oh, well, nobody says that guy's wrong, so I guess he must be right. Nobody said he's wrong.
So, yeah, one thing I do on YouTube is I accept all debate challengers. I don't know if you've watched any of my debates.
Oh, I watched that one. That guy screamed. I did watch that.
That guy was like, bitch, bitch, bitch. And I was like, whoa. Like, that's my thing is I actually did a debate that was like 2.5 hours earlier today.
Ooh.
So, and it got, it's pretty juicy. It wasn't that much of like anger and rage, it was a little bit, but then we worked it out. But it's like, my thing is like, I will talk to literally anybody, even if it's someone who wants to kill me. Just because, like, if I can show normal people how ridiculous they are, it makes their arguments just it makes them look stupid. It makes them look worthless. And so, like, and I can also make it so like people would associate their like psychopathic rampages with other people that are doing like psychopathic rampages, but maybe more civil. Like, so it's like, oh, this reminds me of that one debate that Andrea had with that weirdo that like kept, screaming at her for some reason. It's like, I guess this guy's also one of those, I like to like at least get people to know what the signs are of like someone being just unhinged. So I'll debate anybody. So like, if you're listening to this, hello, let's debate, hit me up. My website is speed.dog. You can send me an email, Andrea@speed.dog. I will accept all debate challenges. But, another fun door knocking story, which arguably is more interesting than the one I mentioned before, is like I was in the richest part of the town, and it's like I didn't want to be there, but it was like the day of the election, and it was like our last list, so it's like, why not? Like whatever. So I'm at this rich part of town, and like this is like we're talking about like maybe we're at like $500,000 to $1 million like property value. Like, if this were 100 years ago, you'd notice different residents in that house kind of thing, let's just put it that way. And so I knock on this door, and it's this like Eastern European immigrant. And you can probably tell where this is going, like in the super rich, well-off house. And then like she calls me a communist and gets really mad at me. And like she's like elderly-ish, like maybe 60, 70, She's like shaking as she's talking, and she's like just filled with rage. It's like, I grew up under Bernie's policies. I would never vote for him. Like, okay, all right. And then she like kept getting mad at me, and I was like trying to end the interaction. And then she had like dogs in the background, and I like dogs, but like the dogs were really mean to me. And it was really scary. That was like the only time I actually was fearful of my life, was in like this rich lady from Eastern Europe, presumably Russia, but you don't know, just yelled at me for being a communist. Like, and I didn't even say, I really barely got out, like, my spiel. It was just immediately she saw the Bernie stuff and her eyes went red. And that was like, I thought those people were like Twitter bots. I thought like those were the Russian bots, but
No, they're really out there. Like, I argue with those people. I've never met one in real life like you have. Like,
it's certainly something.
Those people are out there, especially on Twitter. They'll be like, so our show is called Good Morning Comrade, and then people will call me a communist on Twitter. Like, I'm like, oh, okay. I like, and they're boomers because that was from a time where it meant something.
Mm-hmm.
That was from a time where it's just like, that was like, it was worse. That was the worst thing you could possibly be. So that time is gone. Like, that ship has sailed. And I think, to talk about Bernie, like, we can thank Bernie for that, even though Bernie's not a communist. He's barely a socialist. Like, it's just a social democrat. But he's done more to, like, just, he's done more to, what's the word? The exercise, the ghost, the demon of verbiage, of leftist verbiage, than I think anybody's done in American history.
Yeah, I get pretty just like, I don't want to sound like, a loser here, but when people like get really mad at Bernie and call him a sellout and stuff like that, I don't know. I don't play that game. I get upset at Bernie for not being as good as he could be and all that. And like, I agree with the sentiment, but it's like Bernie has ignited a kind of like awakening. It wasn't like a single-handedly, thing, but he was just kind of there at a good moment to kind of like spark a giant national like movement all across the country. Like, it's not like this is just happening in like Portland or, like San Francisco, or like, like this is happening nationally, like all over the country. There's like progressives winning, leftists like protesting and like, like all that kind of stuff. And it's just like, I imagine like a world where Bernie did not exist and like it was Martin O'Malley versus Hillary Clinton. It's like, we might still be in that situation where there's like leftists like everywhere, but like it wouldn't be as like, the Bernie campaign really helped bring us together in a way that like identify each other, like kind of like just know that it's okay to say these things. One of my things is Bernie kind of told America that it's okay to be poor. We're like, that's like,
absolutely,
like that's something that was like, you should be like, I grew up, very poor. I lost my house when I was a kid, and my mom was like, please, you can't tell anyone else in the family that we're poor. You can't do it. And it's like, why? And then like hearing Bernie say like, what about the, the poor people? It's like, what? Because, you watch TV and everything is like middle class, everything is like this, like, and it's like that. I didn't know that. I always was ashamed of it. I was like, oh, we're poor. Even though I was a kid and it's not like I can get a job. I'm a kid. But it's like, I thought that was like some sort of defect. Like, oh, my mom is terrible at, and I'm just waste of space. And it's like, no, actually, most people are poor. Like, it's just, they don't want you to know that.
Absolutely. No, 100%. And I can think of like, from a racial component, like my grandparents who, they kind of went through their whole lives, like trying to pretend they weren't poor. Like just trying to put on airs, and God bless them, bless their heart. Like, the good things about that is like, far as being a grandkid, I got exposure to like a lot of different things in the world. But my grandmother, she would always say something like, you got to act like a Johnson. And what that really meant to her was, you've got to act like rich white people. And I just thought that was like, I really didn't catch that until I got older. I was like, oh, this is why like she would always live like outside of her means, and always like take us to fancy restaurants, even though we didn't have the money, because it was like just trying to mask that you were poor. And like you said, like we're all poor here. We're like, we're all poor, and there's nothing wrong with it. We're actually the proletariat that's been put upon, and we need to make sure that stops. That's funny. You talked about money, talk about being poor. I want to circle back to something you said about when you were making like $3,000 a month streaming. And you said that money, money's not good. Can you elaborate on that? Because I find it that, so you grew up in a situation where like extreme poverty, and then you got money, but you still continued, like, it didn't really change your mindset, like, as far as like, oh, I got this money now, this is how it's supposed to be. Like, you still kind of got more and more radicalized even when you got money, right?
Yeah, because like I realized that like I have it was in that point where it's like I have enough money for like any material objects, you know, that you could ever envision anybody ever wanting. Um, one of my biggest hobbies is, you know, playing video games, and I love the PlayStation 1. That's what I did as a kid all the time. And you know, because you know, my mom got me a PS2, but we couldn't afford PS2 games. And so like we would just get like, you know, the $5, $1 PS1 games. So I played PS1 games all the time. I bought as many PS1 games as I could, and I realized I can't play them all. They look cool, I can't play them all, but it's like, you know, what do I do with my money? And then after a few months, I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna spend my money on making my mom happy. So like I'd buy her ice cream, you know, I'd make her, you know, and my mom and I did not get along, really ever. Like, you know, very, you know, there's a lot of details there. But like,
Right.
you know, I was like, I have money, you know, I'm going to try to make her happy. I'm going to, you know, and then I realized like, all right, maybe I'll just save the money. And so I saved the money, and then eventually I ran out of money. You know, it's like, I don't know, like I never, I probably could have used the money more intelligently. You know, I probably could have, instead of buying a bunch of shit and like, you know, buying a bunch of like, you know, unhealthy food and stuff, I probably could have moved. I probably could have invested, you know, into something that's not Bitcoin.
Mhm.
But like, you know, I didn't really want any of that. Like, it was more of like I felt like this is something I'm supposed to do, and it wasn't really something I wanted. Um,
To bring those two ideas together, like, there's been I think even Valve, the video game company, keeps records of like how many games that people bought on Steam versus like how much time they have playing the games. It was something like people haven't played like 80% of the games or something. It was like a very high percentage of the games that they bought, and they have them on their digital library. And that's a capitalism, baby. Like, that's what it
yeah.
is. It goes, oh, this is the new like flashy thing, I want it. And then you get it, and it doesn't fulfill that thing. It doesn't fulfill that like Maslow hierarchy of needs hole in your soul, heart, being, whatever you want to call it.
Like, my thing was like, I would get paid to play games, and so I'd buy a new game and then play that game, and it was kind of like money was printing itself. And then, you know, it's just, you get to a point where it's like, you know, I kind of want to buy other things and, you know,
Right.
do other things. I don't know. It didn't, the money never really changed my perspective, or it never really changed my beliefs, but it changed my perspective, I guess. Like, I had more kind of context for a lot of things. So it's like, I can totally see how, like, when I was a kid, my mom, instead of spending money on something better, spent money on fast food every single day, you know, like, because like it was a single mother situation.
Mm-hmm.
So like, she'd pick me up from school, you know, and then we'd go get McDonald's, and then she'd go home and sleep, you know, because she didn't want to cook. You know, she was also disabled, so it was like hard for her to stand up and cook. So like, you know, I get it. It's just like easier to just spend the money to alleviate short-term kind of stress and like, you know, whatever. But then it's like, I don't know, like, what else am I supposed to spend it on? Well, I don't have enough money to like save up for a house. You know, that's so much money. You know, if I get an apartment, well, what if I run out of money? Then I'm screwed. You
Yeah,
know,
especially
like,
you're streaming. That is not.
that is very
For,
unstable.
for the people out there who are like, what are these people talking about? Like what are you crying about? You get to play paid to play video games. That is not an easy lifestyle. That is
Yeah,
like,
for context, I streamed like 16 hours a day every single day. Like, I would take no breaks. Sometimes I'd stream 12 hours. That's my break. It's like, oh, I'm going to stop the stream at 8 p.m. today, starting at like 8 a.m. or whatever, you know? Like, so like, it was very, and it was like, obviously, like, again, I went through this phase of like, I don't want to say anything that's going to upset my fan base, because if I do, then I lose my fan base, and then I lose my money. So it's like, you have to, like, you know, you have to do so much as a balancing act, and then it kind of ruins my hobby. Like, I don't really play games that much anymore. Like,
I went through a phase of probably a decade when I was really into poker, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to try to give like being a professional poker player a run. I'm glad I was never that good, because everything I started to read about it was like, oh, do you want to have the worst life possible? Take your fun hobby that you like to do and turn it into a job. And then you just you go on the highway to driving yourself crazy. So it's like, nah, don't want to do that. Don't want to play video games for a living. Don't want to play games for a living. Like, it's not an easy life. It really is not. Imagine so if you're sitting there, like I have an office job, so I work 8 hours a day. Like she's saying, imagine sitting at your desk 16 hours a day, trying to make strangers happy, doing a thing that like you kind of have enjoyment with, but like you don't want to do it for 16 hours a day.
Yeah.
It's not the way. It's not the way to be.
It gets old quick, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. You talked about your mom. Now you've got a whole story about actually being swatted by like honest to God Nazis. Do you feel comfortable like talking about that?
Yeah, I mean, I have a video about it that's got a lot of detail, but like basically, 2017 was where I came out as trans, and I had, making money on the internet, I had relative notoriety. And so there's a lot of people that know of me and, don't like know me, but like, oh, there's another streamer going trans, like the language that they use. You're right there. You kind of ducking around.
No, keep going. I think my chair just like ran out of hydraulic fluid or something. Like it just lowered all of a sudden. I've got one of those fancy like office chairs I got off of. It's supposed to be like a $400 chair. I just got off of Craigslist from like some office that was going out of business for like $20.
Not bad. I just sit on my bed, as you can see.
I've done that.
There you go.
But yeah,
so like, a lot of people, because I, was a streamer, I have that kind of like people know of me, but don't know me kind of thing, And so like, everyone's like, oh, look at this streamer going trans for attention. Oh my God. And it's like that whole thing. And it's like, actually, it's the exact opposite. Like around when I started transitioning was like where I stopped wanting attention, where I stopped streaming. And like, so it's like, it's kind of the opposite. It's like the whole idea of people going trans for attention is just like, it's very, very stupid. And so 2017 was where I kind of started doing that. And around like middle of 2018, this is after I have come out as a communist. So at this point, I'm getting like maybe 15 viewers a stream. Like at my peak, I was getting like 200, 300, like for a while I was getting like 50 to 100 like every day, So I'm at the point where I'm just like, okay, 15 viewers. They're mostly cool people. We're comfy. We hang out, all's good. But I had this like notoriety of being what used to be a prominent kind of, asterisks, quotes, whatever, streamer. And then once people found out I was transgender, like that's where like every day I would get like 15 normal viewers and then like 5 people telling me to kill myself and like, you need to die and like, you need to, when you're going to stop pretending. It's like all the worst things you could possibly imagine. And so as a result, around that time I got doxxed. Presumably like someone who I'm very open, like I said, I'll accept all debate challengers. This is a mentality I've always had. People have always said, hey, can I send you stuff? What's your address? And I'm like, I'm not going to get a PO box. Come on, that's extra money. So like, here's my address. And so I guess someone who, sent me something in the past or knew someone who sent me something in the past, got my address, leaked it on 8chan, 4chan, and then Kiwi Farms, the classic Nazi dens. And it, people would just spam that in my chat room and it's like, all right, whatever. They would spam my dead name, it's like, whatever, like, all right, this happens like on a daily basis, it's whatever. And then sometime, like one time in the summer of 2018 is someone just spams that stuff and I'm like, all right, whatever, I'll just ban them. And then like 20 minutes later, what I start hearing is like a megaphone saying my dead name, like in the middle of like, I'm like, cause I have headphones on and I like, I like video game music. I'm jamming out, I'm like having a good time. And I'm like, when something is so loud, you can feel it. Like it tingles you. Like it, you feel like the vibrations bouncing off of your body. You know what I mean? So it's like, I feel, and I'm like, my brain clicks. I'm like, okay, there is literally only one possible thing that this could be. Let's get it over with. Oh, nice microphone there.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Dropping mics. But yeah, so police are at your door.
They're not at my door, actually.
No,
they're in the middle of the street.
Jesus.
And so my mom is sleeping, and I'm like, I'm just going to go out there and talk to them. I didn't think of like, and plus I didn't want to take too long. I didn't think of like going to tell my mom, hey, you need to, be safe. Don't like, like I didn't think of explaining that to her. I didn't want to wake her up. I didn't want to scare her. She had gotten abused by cops like when I was growing up a lot. So it's like, I don't want to like trigger her or anything. I just, my idea, I didn't think about it too much, but like my idea was that she's just going to sleep through it and it'll be over soon. So I opened the door and I see like 12 people with machine guns just like pointing at me from like the middle of the street. And they're like, are like, you need like, I don't remember the exact verbiage, but they're like, you need to walk, into the street. I don't have my shoes on either. And I'm like, it hurt walking on the street. And it's like, I keep like, they can't hear me because they're really far away. So they're like screaming through the megaphone. So I'm like, all right, I'll just wait till they come up with me. And then I get on the ground. They tell me to get on the ground when I'm on the street. And then they tell me to walk backwards. The classic.
Catch-22, like,
yeah, I'm on the ground.
Command. Yeah.
Yep. And that's where I'm like, at this point, I've seen this video before. And I've always said this. It's like, if I weren't white, chances are I'd be dead. Like, I'm fully in acknowledgement of that. Like, if I were not white, I'm pretty sure I would be dead. Because where I lived was like, somewhat like uppity, but like the really like poor side of the uppity, like, so I'm really scared, but like it's one of those things where it's like you're not really processing things, you're just trying to get out of the situation as soon as possible. So it's like I'm on the ground, they're telling me to walk backwards, I scream, I can't do that, I'm on the ground, and eventually someone comes over and they do that thing where they like shove their boot into my back and like try to break my spine, and then like do that thing where like grab your hands and dislocate your shoulders for some reason. And then this is around the time where my mom wakes up because it's like really loud. I left my door open. They told me not to close it behind me. And my mom's standing in like the doorway to the house. And she's
they told you not to close the door behind you?
Yeah.
Let me tell you what that was. Now, see, okay, a couple things. We haven't talked about this.
Okay.
One, I'm a Marine Corps vet. Also, I used to be a cop. The reason why they told you to do that is because they didn't, I don't know if they had a search warrant or not for you. They probably didn't because they didn't do a no knock and just kick in the door. They probably didn't get a search warrant. And that's why they want you to come out by not closing the door. Remember this, kids. If a policeman knocks on your door and wants to talk to you, you have your keys, you open the door, you exit your house, you shut the door behind you and you lock it. The reason why he wants that door open is because now they don't need a warrant to go in that house.
Okay.
Bull, that's dirty shit right there.
But yeah, my mom in her like, underwear, pajamas, whatever. And again, she's disabled. She cannot like walk well. So like she's confused. She just woke up and she like sees a bunch of cops with guns like, arresting me, and she starts freaking the absolute F out. And like she starts crying immediately. And then the cops, as they're dragging me away, they turn the guns to her and say, you need to get on the ground now or we will shoot you. They literally said that they're going to shoot her. And that was like the thing that's like hit my brain. I'm like, what the fuck? Bleep that or whatever.
Right,
and it's
we're good.
Yeah, it's like, why would you, like a crying, elderly, disabled lady, why would you say we are going to shoot you? Like, I can't think of any situation where that's productive.
I can tell you exactly why that is. Because those guys are so fucking gassed up to go use their toys that they never get to go use, that they're not going to waste this opportunity to fucking make somebody get on their face.
And obviously, exactly keep this in mind, this is happening like on a live stream. The live stream's obviously in my bedroom, but like you can hear like the megaphone and stuff, you can hear it. You can't really make out the words, but you can hear something's going on. You can hear my mom crying in the stream recording and stuff. And so like, they say, get on the ground now or we will shoot you. And my mom, like, obviously I said, she had PTSD, she had been abused by cops before, and so like she starts crying and then she starts screaming like, I can't, like my leg. And I'm starting like, I'm at this point, I'm like being dragged into like where the block of officers are. I'm handcuffed and stuff. So I keep telling them like, she's disabled. She can't do that. There's nothing going on. I'm being swatted. Please listen to me. And then like they rush over to her. And I can't see this because like they're keeping me away from seeing this, so I'm only like visualizing. So they rush over to her and like knock her onto the ground. And then like, they do the thing where they try to like kick into her back and dislocate her shoulders. And again, she's very like weak, and then like she's like freaking the fuck out. She's crying, and then they drag her, and she's also like relatively like overweight, like 300 pounds ish, at the time. And so like they're dragging her, like by her arms, not like, in any sort of like fashion that's like not going to cause massive damage to her already disabled body. So they're like dragging her over. She's crying. And like I'm trying to explain, this is a swatting. I'm being swatted. I am a live streamer. Nothing is going on. I'm being swatted. And all the officers say, what does that mean? What does that mean? I don't know what that means. So eventually I talk to whoever's in charge, right? And I tell them I'm being swatted, and they go like, I don't know what that is. We are a SWAT team. Like, what do you mean swatted? We're the SWAT team. And it's like, first of all, you are the people charged with my protection and my safety, and you don't know basic terms? Like, this wasn't like 1994. Like, this is 2018. Swatting is like on the rise at that point. Like, it's happening like everywhere. Like, you should know what that means. If you are an officer in a SWAT team, you should know what that means. Like,
you totally should be keeping up on this stuff. But I can tell you, like, those guys don't. They don't
it
keep
gets
up
better
on
though. It gets better. So I talked to this guy, and I'm like, so I was doing a live stream, and then people don't like me, found my address, and called you guys to come harass me. And they're like, well, if that were the case, how'd they know what clothes you were wearing? It's like, I had a webcam on my live stream.
Jesus.
And then this guy is like, what is a webcam live stream? What is that? You got to tell me what that is. And like, my mom's crying. I don't know what they're doing to her, but she's like, she gets stuffed into a van somewhere, and I don't know what happened. And so I'm telling them, I have to explain to them what a webcam is in the year 2018. Again, this isn't like 1864, right? This is like, we're not time traveling back to like the 5th century. Like, these people don't know what a webcam is, or
right.
They're just pretending to be stupid. And honestly, it's a tough one. Pretending to be stupid or actually stupid, really, actions speak louder than
words. If I had to take a guess, I would go with actually stupid, because I've seen the videos of like Twitch streamers getting swatted, and they're kicking in doors, they're coming in, and then all of a sudden they're on cam, and you see them looking, and they're like, "What is that?" Like, yeah, I'm on the TV.
They're dumb they're dumb as a sack of shit, man.
Yeah, no.
They're so stupid. So I'm trying to explain to them this. Now, here's a little icing on the cake. My mother's brother, whom, after we got evicted, helped us move to DC area. He is a federal cop. And so he comes down, and then he tells them to, like, he wags his finger and tells them to stop, and then they basically go away.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember my uncle blamed it on me and said, you should be more careful. Why did you do that? And it's like, meanwhile, my mom is literally bruised. She's crying. And like, my uncle's blaming her and me for not cooperating, which is like, how can you, like, I get it, you say that to strangers, but like, how can you say that to your family? How can you say that to your sister that you've known for 60 years? Like, how can a human being be that detached from their family? Like, I get it, stranger is one thing, but it's like your family. And I remember the first thing I did when I went back to the live stream and I updated everyone is I started playing Fuck the Police during the storytelling, which is pretty funny. And like, everyone was like, I don't believe you. Like, that's not real. It's like, I can get the skepticism, but it's like, once I told the story and they like went back and checked the video of like the cops coming into my room, it's like, oh, obviously. But then, now this is another funny part of this story, is that, how I said I used to be popular and a lot of people hated me when I came out as trans and stuff. So like, a lot of people that hate me had these like groups where they would every single day talk about how dumb I was, and they would hate watch me. And what they started doing was, before I was able to like actually kind of like make a video on what happened or upload anything, they started posting like on like Twitter, Reddit, 4chan, 8chan, Kiwi Farms, that I was going to fake being swatted and that I faked it.
Wow.
So yeah, the first like narrative that people would see is that, oh, I just set up a fake swatting. And so when I actually started posting the videos, people were like, oh, it's fake. I saw that, and it was like, right? And then like, so a year and a half goes by and they catch the guy. Now, again, the cops never did a follow-up. I tried to contact them a few times and they just said, we'll get to you, but they never did. I don't know if my uncle had any sort of strong arming there. I don't know what that was. In January of this year, a reporter contacts me because my stream name was listed in some court document, and they say, "Oh, did you know that this person that swatted you, like, is in custody now?" I'm like this is a year and a half later, and I was like, "What?" And then they're like, "Oh yeah, and he was affiliated with Nazis," and I'm like, "Well, no surprise, right? That's not a shock." And then like a couple months, like maybe a month ago, they did an update on that court case because he was sentenced. You know, like one was like they were bringing him in, and then he was in the news, and then he was sentenced. And during the sentencing and that proceeding, they found out he was connected to Adam Waffen, and I'm like, you know,
What's an
wow.
Adam Waffen?
Well, I already knew what it was at that point, but
I mean,
like,
like a lot of people don't. Like if you're not in this
yeah,
whole like
that's like
internet-y.
one of those really hardcore, we're gonna kill all minorities Nazi groups, right?
Yep.
So it's like,
It's the guys that like Andy No like
yeah,
collaborates with.
literally, like like you know, because it's like, you know, obviously, like I'm starting to become politically active, and like I've been doing my Above It All show for like 7 months now, or 8 months now, but like at that point 7 months, and I'm like I'm a lot more educated. I'm a lot more, you know, I know a lot more things. It's like at the time I would have had no idea what these things were, but it's like now I'm like, what the hell? Like why were they like I was literally a nobody, but it's like they hate minorities so much that they will, like, if they immediately suspect someone to be trans or whatever, they will try everything they can to ruin their lives. And one of the websites that is obsessed with me is called Kiwi Farms. I don't know if you know much about them.
I know them because they keep track of. I feel like our normie viewers are just like, what is this world? They keep track of like Christian, like Christine Weston Chandler. So
they've got like literally kill lists of, you know, trans streamers and YouTubers.
Jesus,
and each one they have like, they try to have like a detailed like history of and like track all their information and stuff. And I was on that list. And so that's where it's like the people that are in Adam Waffen go to Kiwi Farms, get the list of, you know, tranny streamers, and they just like go down the list and try to ruin their lives. And so one thing that after the swatting happened is a couple months later, my mom had a stroke, and she had a brain tumor that we didn't know about because we didn't have health insurance, you know, woo. And so she had a stroke, and the doctor told me that this, you know, the brain tumor got really large, probably due to stress. And so it's like 2 months later, my mom's in the hospital, and then boom, like it's over. She's gone. And it's like the idea, and it took me a while to kind of put that formulation together. It's like neo-Nazis tried to ruin my life, and as a result, killed my mother, and I can't even get a settlement. Like the people responsible, like to me, to my perspective is I hold the SWAT team more, like I think that they are more to blame than Atomwaffen or the Nazis, because it's like, you know, if the SWAT team weren't so ruthless and evil, the Nazis would have no power. And so like the idea that that SWAT team is still there, nothing happened to them, nothing will happen to them.
Absolutely not.
Like, and my mom's just dead. And so it's like, you know, once I realized that, that's where it's like, yeah, the world is garbage. I am an anarchist. I want to burn everything down.
Yeah,
like,
that'll radicalize you. Like,
yeah,
real fast. Wow. I mean, that's just I can't even imagine. Like the closest thing I personally have to that is a long time, probably like 15 years ago. I got stopped, and the guy wanted to run me through the sobriety test. I got pulled over, and he was being really vague about like what he wanted me to do. He's like, "Oh, walk this." I'm like, "How exactly do you want this done?" And he was just like, "Well, you need to stop stalling." I'm like, "If I do this wrong, you're going to take me to jail. So how about you tell me what you want?" And it really kind of like pissed him off. And then I totally remember. So I got through the sobriety test, and he goes, "I still think you're drunk." And I just started laughing. Because I was just like, this is obvious. I'm like, we could have just blown the breathalyzer and been done with this. Like for, you know, I'm like, I blew the breathalyzer. Obviously I wasn't drunk. And he was like mad he had to let me go. But yeah, that's the trap. It's one wrong move and you're dead with the cops. And they want to guys on these special units, like the SWAT team and stuff. That's what they want to do, man. They're so amped up to be on these like special units and get to play with their toys that they get federally funded to buy MP4s or M4s and these weird like personnel carriers, which are to be used on city streets. Like that's if they get a fucking literal hard on thinking about like rolling this shit through city streets.
It's bizarre.
Absurd.
It's strange. And like for context, I'm 24 years old. This happened when I was 22. Like, obviously this shouldn't happen to anybody, but like that's pretty young to go through a traumatic experience such as police like attacking you and basically killing your mom.
Damn.
That's pretty fucked up, right? So it's like, I don't know, my whole thing is that like I got to use my trauma to affect change in the world, because like if I just wallow here, my life is going to be terrible. Like I want to be able to tell people that story and then they go like, wow. Because there's still people in this country that think, oh, Nazis aren't real. Oh, they
Absolutely.
keep crying. Antifa keeps crying. Oh, where are the Nazis? Nazis literally killed my mom. Oh, where are the Nazis? Where are the Nazis? It's like this is a real thing that affects real people. And the sooner you understand that, then we can actually work together. But it's like, I will not tolerate anybody that has this whole like, Antifa are the real Nazis. Like, Antifa did not swat me. Antifa did not knock my fucking mom into bits and bobs, like, so I don't know, man. Like,
no, you're right. No, 100%. Like, I kind of want to go on this. Now I have a really good idea of like your mindset, especially of like what radicalized you. Your theory of like the United States as a failing empire that's collapsing. I really want to hear more about that, because I've heard it said that, this empire's done. It's just, are we going to bow out gracefully like Great Britain and go off into the sunset? Or are we just going to be like a tiger, an old tiger on its last legs like Rome, and just try to hold on to this thing to the bitter end and just lose everything? But people say, hey, like people smarter than me are like, yeah, this thing's over with. Like, what are your like when you say this empire's collapsing and failing, like what do you explain that to me and other people?
Well, first, I dropped out of high school. I got my GED. I tried college for a week, and then I dropped out again. So I am not educated by any means. I am not a scholar by any means. I've never read Marx. I've never read Lenin. I get their ideas, but I'm not going to read the book about something, so like I am not super educated. I am not like I'm not going to like give you like breadth of knowledge and wisdom, but like, it's just obvious. Like, to me, it's just like, you look around, like it really just, like the coronavirus pandemic is like, that's going to be the final nail in the coffin. Mm-hmm. I really like cannot envision, like once I started learning more about like war and like especially Iraq and Afghanistan wars, it's like, how did this stuff happen? And I remember like in my lifetime, my mom was like, oh yeah, 9/11 happened. And like, my mom's like very clued out, just all she knew is that, and I grew up in New Jersey, so like all we knew is that like, oh, 9/11 happened right over there, and anytime brown people can come kill us all, so we got to go kill them first. And I'm like, how can you believe that? Like, I at the time I was just like, that doesn't make any sense. But like, my mom would just be like, well, that's just the way it is. But then it's like, as I'm growing up and I'm reading this, it's like, wow, this is like really awful. It's like, obviously we went to the wrong countries, which, they don't tell anyone that. We like the people that are most responsible for 9/11 we're best friends with. Absolutely. So it's like, it's like once you realize that, like, and then you realize that every other country, everyone hates America. It's like once I started using the internet more, talking to Europeans, like they hate Americans. Like they think they're lazy, like uncivilized. And then you talk to people, like in Asia or Latin America or in the Middle East, and they go like, yeah, we hate Americans. The Americans killed my family. Death to America. And I'm like, honestly, I can't blame you. And then like, it's like, and then you start reading more about Africa and it's like, wow, like we have fucked their shit up. And it's like, basically the entire world hates us. So it's like, that's not good. And then it's like, when like the really collapsing part is like, really America's been propped up by the fact that the people in America think America is great. Mm-hmm. Like, or think America is like, oh, we're the policemen of the world. America's the best country on earth. And I never even understood that as a kid. I was like, I don't know anything about other countries. I'm not intelligent enough to make that decision, and I'm like, I'm pretty poor. We just lost my house. America's the greatest country. What? And so it's like, once you realize that everyone hates America, everyone doesn't like them. America's occupying like every fucking country in the world. It's like, and then once Americans lose faith with America, can the empire really continue doing anything? I don't know. Like, that's my thing, is like, I really cannot foresee like a situation where this holds on another 25 years or 10 even. Like, and obviously my politics is like, I want to destroy the empire. Like, I want to be on the front lines of taking this motherfucker down, right? But it's like, even like people that don't, like even like family members I have that aren't radical at all, like they still like America, even they are like, yeah, this country is not as good as it used to be. Like, everything's kind of sucks now, especially with coronavirus. Like, everyone's losing their jobs. Like, again, there's going to be 40 million fucking evicted people soon. It's like that cannot happen. Once people have no food, once people have no money, once they have no housing, what are they going to do? Disappear?
Right.
That's a hell of a lot of people that you need to disappear. So it's like, I just don't see it. I don't see it sustaining itself.
I mean, I agree with you. And I just want to go back to the beginning where you're just like, oh, I haven't read Marx. I haven't read Engels. Like, I think all that stuff is great, but like, I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah, I have lived experience.
Exactly.
Reading Marx is for college kids that like went to college. I have lived experience. I don't need Marx. I'm sorry.
The goal, I've even stated as the goal of this show, is to give somebody like me who, like, again, and you said you have lived experience. There's no fucking reason on God's green earth that the richest empire to ever exist on planet Earth cannot feed, house, educate, and take care of everybody's medical needs. Like, that doesn't make any fucking sense.
It's weird. Like, it's weird.
Like,
it's strange.
With coronavirus, like, what people are like, well, we got to go back to work because of the economy. People just can't sit home. What the fuck do you mean they just can't sit home? Like, we all pay taxes. Even if you get a refund, you're paying sales tax because we're all buying shit in this economy. So where the fuck is that money for? What is it for? If the federal government is not for times like this, what the fuck is it even for?
So weird about it. It's weird because, like, they could just do it and it wouldn't be that expensive. Like, these people could still be the richest people in the world by a country mile, and then also give us healthcare and also feed us and also make sure we have housing. So it's just weird. It's like at the point where it's like they don't even care anymore. Like, and that's like, it's strange. Like, I don't get it.
I'll push back on that and say, like, and it's kind of a cheeky answer. It's like, it's not that they don't care. It's that they care, and they already, like, the federal government already knows what would happen, because once, it's the same reason why people in the federal government were so afraid of FDR, and all FDR did was kick capitalism down the road and keep it going. Why they didn't want to do Social Security, why we didn't want to do public schooling, because once you open that door, there's no going back. So once you do Medicare for all, you can't look at Medicaid, not Medicare, just not even Medicaid, Medicare. You get the most right wing, boomer old person right now, and it'll be like, Trump 2020, blah blah blah, and it'll be like, well, we're gonna snatch your Medicare away. What the fuck? No, you're not. Once you open that door and show the government what it can actually do to serve its people, there's no going back for that. And that's why they can't even, that's why they're bickering over, oh God, we can't do another $1,200 check. We can't even do another $600. How about $2? Because
it's weird. It's bizarre though. The thing about, like, and this is like something I like to say a lot, is because you get a lot of like conservative leaning or like people. And then, like, one of the things I like to say is, like, think about the fact that Barack Obama's most prominent, like, public role in the whole entirety of the Trump administration was stopping Bernie Sanders.
Absolutely.
Like once you understand that, that, like, no, this is a team. They're not. This is a controlled opposition party. It's all kabuki theater. It's all like a House of Cards, but in real life, it's like, this is all a reality show. We have a reality show president, and we have Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi. Oh, I'm mad at Mitch McConnell. It's like, it's all a game show. It means nothing. Obama's had nothing to say for 3 years. And then he comes out of the cave and says, all right, Pete, get out. All right, Amy, get out. All right, Beto, come back from the dead. Let's do this. And it's like, what? And again, I was in South Carolina on that election night. And it's like, I was like, you know, like it was one of those things where it's kind of expected, but it's like, you know, that hurt. But it's like, I get home and I live in North Carolina. So I get home and like my election was like literally that Tuesday. And so it's like, I vote and then it's like, wow, Super Tuesday was a disaster. Now, personally, I think, and you can call me a conspiracy theorist, maybe I'll accept that. I think that one of the reasons why they had all that many people was so that they could literally cheat and fudge the election results and no one would be able to tell the difference. Because when you have such a massive change of like 7 candidates down to 3, and obviously Elizabeth Warren didn't drop out, you know, when you do that, it makes it almost impossible to track any legitimacy. There's just no way. And I have no faith in elections, none whatsoever. Now I'll still vote and stuff, you know, just whatever.
I love your take on voting. Like if you want to talk about them for like, I mean to cut your thunder off, but it's exactly you show up, you pull the damn lever, you hit the button, and then you go on forward march and fight. But you don't pin your hopes on electoralism.
Like one of the worst lessons that people took from Bernie losing was that electoralism is bad, so let's go vote for the Green Party. And then you look at the Green Party's 2020 primary, and it's like, what a disaster. Because it's like, you have to, like, if you're a Green person, like, you have to understand this is Bernie's probably going to get owned. You have a good chance this time around, right? So why on earth would you have a corrupt primary as like, why would you do that? Like, I literally cannot imagine what was going through the Green Party people's minds. It's like you have such a good opportunity for something that could be a historical shift, and you just decide to shit all over it by cheating your own primary. It's bizarre. And then you have like the libertarians who's like, the only interesting libertarian is Vermin Supreme. And they're like, all right, see ya. Let's get some random lady no one's ever heard of. At least Gary Johnson was a governor somewhere. Like, you know, it's like, who is this? And it's like,
the libertarians are gone. Once Trump got elected, you can't find one. You can't fucking find them.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's like, I don't know. It's just strange that the third parties we have are also controlled opposition. Like, it's all just a disaster. Like, so my thing is, like, I don't believe in political parties. Now, if I ever run for Congress, which, you know, who knows, you know, it's possible, I'll run as a Republican if I think it's the best idea in my district in North Carolina, where there hasn't been a Democrat in 20 fucking years, right? I might run as a Republican anarchist. Why not? That sounds fun. Like, that sounds cool. I don't care about parties. I might run as a Republican one year, run as a Democrat the next. Like, that sounds fun to me. You know, like, so, like, the idea of people, like, you know, like, oh, you got to support the Greens. It doesn't matter that they cheated. Support them anyway. And it's like, First of all, this is a waste of time to talk about this. Like, the Greens will not win. Nothing will happen. Can we talk about something more important, like the evictions, like protests, you know, like federal troops disappearing people? Like, can we talk about that? And it's like, no. You said you're going to vote for Biden. I'm going to yell at you forever. And it's like, dude, I don't care. So the way I go about this, my strategy on my videos is I say, I will vote for whoever is polling highest against Donald Trump. This is my like way of framing this to like make people less susceptible to getting reactionary and emotional. Is like, I will vote if Jesse Ventura pops in past the filing deadlines for some reason and somehow like, sure, whatever. If Kanye West, you know, like, whatever. You know, if Joe Jorgensen decides to, like, you know, it's like, oh, but like, I don't care who the voting is. It doesn't matter for me. If Biden wins, things might be so slightly easier to burn that motherfucker down. And that's all I care about.
Let me run something by you that, like, it's kind of my pet theory, and you, like, this is like a good faith, you could totally disagree with it, to where I super think that the DNC fucked up when they consolidated around Biden. And here's why, is because no one could predict. You could even, like, coronavirus was going on. It was already in its like budding stages, but you couldn't predict George Floyd being murdered and then the reaction to that. And so I was super depressed about the state of this country. Like, well, this is it. We're fucked. Like, Joe Biden's going to be the nominee. It's the South Park choice between a douche and a turd. But once the protests and the riots started happening, I felt like, okay, people give a fuck. They're in the streets. We can use this for like, I'm in the streets now.
Exactly.
We can use this for like actual change. And it's not just, we can defund the police and then move on to have Medicare for all and just keep people in the streets. This is what I mean by the DNC fucked up. If Bernie would be the nominee and Bernie beats Bernie beats Trump and Bernie becomes president, all that, you get another Obama hangover and all that energy goes away. Because they'll be like, you got your guy. What do you want? And Bernie's not a leftist. Bernie will be cutting deals. Bernie will be like, okay, I asked for Medicare for all. We're going to get Medicare for most. And, that's what would happen. And I'd be, in a normal world, I would be completely fine with that. But now with Biden, everybody fight, all the leftists, we all hate Biden too. So nobody's good.
My thing is, this is what I say in all of my videos, is I want Biden to be inaugurated from the bunker. I want there to be protests so crazy that guy cannot go on that little thing and do his he needs to be inaugurated from a bunker. And that is my goal. So I will do any sort of agitprop I can on my small little YouTube show to push forward that goal, because Biden's not going to do anything. And like Barack Obama, I wasn't that old, but reading back, it's like he campaigned kind of progressively, enough in order to get the job done, and it's like Biden's not even trying. Like, he's out here saying you ain't black. He's out here saying black people aren't diverse.
He's trying to give it away. Yeah.
It's weird. It's shocking. And it's like I totally think Biden will eke it out just because Trump has done such a bad job. And but at the same time, it's like I don't care. If Trump's gonna do a State of the Union thing, whatever, I want that to be from a bunker. But either way, I want these people to cower, and I want to see their faces when they realize that it's over. I want that to be televised. I want someone to snap one of those epic pictures where Trump is moments before expletive satire parody. I want that to that would.
You froze. Hopefully you'll come back. But I got what you were saying.
Did I cut out?
You're back.
Okay. I want Biden to have trademark a gas
just that face. That blanket stare.
Yeah, I want that to be as on the other side of the as the other side of the picture as an expletive being fired at a parody. It's just one of that's my ideal scenario. And so I'm very upfront about that. So
that's baller. I want to end with something a little more lighthearted, so we can all have a good laugh before we get off this amazing Zoom call. I know, right? You released a video today about the Wachowski sisters, who are the creators of The Matrix, saying that The Matrix is an allegory for being trans. And then I was listening to it on my lunch break at work, and I was just like, no, that can't be the case. I'm like, no, it's about philosophy. The Matrix got me introduced to philosophy. And then, but it's also their work. They wrote it. I can't tell them that they're wrong. But then you talked about a character, and you say you've never seen it. You talked about a character named Switch, and as soon as you said that, it all clicked. And
yeah, I was just reading from
oh, yeah, you were reading from the article, and it all kind of clicked for me, and I was like, oh, it really is. Yeah, because you haven't seen it. So Switch is a character. She dies in the first, I'm ruining it. But she's kind of got a tomboy look. Mm-hmm. And then that got me to think about, even the main love interest, which is Carrie Ann Moss, which is Trinity, is she's got a tomboy look. And I'm like, oh, I get it now. Yeah, Switch and Trinity are super hot in those movies. And they totally captivated my attention as a 20-something. But you said, what you said in those videos is it's almost a trolling of right-wing reactionaries who want to claim media that's not theirs and never been for them.
Yeah, I was talking about King of the Hill in that video.
Yeah, King of the Hill.
Great one.
When I was thinking about, I actually got in an online argument about, okay, so I'm a Disney person. This is my guilty pleasure, and I love everything Disney. Aaron and I went to our honeymoon. We went to Disney World, and Star Wars. Now we went to Star Wars Land. We woke up super early and went to the Star Wars Land. And so there's this thing of too many women in Star Wars, and it's all this SJW Like bullshit is killed Star Wars and Star
Now,
Wars.
I should say I have never seen a single Star Wars film.
But that's fine. But like the funny part is I got into an online argument. I'm like, y'all are fucking cringy as shit with this like anti-SJW thing. I'm like, the whole thing is like people fighting for social justice in the stars in a war. Like this has never been yours.
Isn't it like an insurrection against an empire or something like that?
Yeah, there's a lot to it. God, we should. I'd love to see you like have you watch those movies and get your response to them. Because okay, so
if you want to send me them for free in any viewable capacity,
I'll just give you access to our Disney Plus and just Disney Plus.
Oh, are they all on there?
Yeah, they're all on there.
Do I have to watch the original? I heard that, you know.
Yeah, you should watch you should watch them all. Just
I have to go find the original Laserdisc.
Oh no! Fuck all that. That's nerd shit. Don't do that.
Okay.
But when I said like watch them all, like the Jedi Knights are like, they're what a Jedi Knight is. It doesn't matter. You exist on Earth. They're the guys with the robes and the laser swords, right?
Sure.
And they're like the good guys, but you can also read them as like super ineffectual liberals. Because they're like the space wizards with all the space wizard magic who can like mind trick you and get you like they can hypnotize you and all this shit. And so there's a thing where they have to go rescue a little boy from slavery from like, and they do this like means tested roundabout deal with the slaver to like try to rescue this little boy to where they're like, okay, if we supply a ship where the little boy can pilot the ship in a spaceship race, and if he wins the race, then you got to set him free. And it's like, motherfucker, you're a space wizard. Why don't you just say there's no more slavery? We're done with slavery right now. And it's just like, what the fuck is this movie? And the only time they actually shit gets done, it's just all these ineffectual liberals like stroking their chins with their space wizard magic. It's like normal everyday people who are just like, you know what, fuck this. Give me a blaster, put me in the cockpit of a spaceship. We're going to go destroy that fucking space Nazi base. We're going to blow it to shit. And like all the space wizards are like, I don't know. We should contemplate. And they're like, no, fuck all that. We're just going to go.
That sounds pretty good.
Yeah. And it's like, so you can read it as that. And another thing is like, I'm also into Star Trek. And Star Trek
I've also never seen Star Trek.
It's fine. All you need to do, it's Karl Marx in space. It's Das Kapital in space. It's socialists, communists in space. And I've tried to like dip my toe into like Star Trek fandom of like fan clubs, like IRL, like meeting people, and it's like a bunch of boomers, and they're like, I don't like socialism and all that shit. I'm like, you've based your whole identity around like a socialist thing. Like this whole thing is about like, okay, in Star Trek, there's something called a replicator. So when you're hungry, you just go, can I get a pizza? And the machine pops out a pizza. And then you take the tray for that it popped out, you put it back in the machine, and it breaks it down on a molecular level, and it can create more food. So nobody's hungry. Everybody gets like, if you're in the Federation with everybody gets like a space buck stipend. So that way they get UBI. So that way, if the guy who's like, hey, you know what, I want to, my thing is to cook, so I'm going to open a restaurant, people can spend their UBI space bucks at this restaurant. And it's like
pretty good.
Yeah. And the whole idea of Star Trek was like, people realized there was a third world war and it devastated the earth and people almost went extinct because they were fighting over oil and resources or whatever the fuck. And so people were like, hey, we can't do this again. So we need to just make everything available to everybody so they can live comfortable lives. And once they did that, it unlocked like, hey, we can actually go fat. Like since nobody has to worry about working at fucking Whataburger anymore or whatever, we can concentrate on like trying to build a spaceship that'll go faster than light. And that's when like the whole galaxy opened up and they started meeting aliens and shit. But I'm just like, these reactionaries, like you said, with like King of the Hill, where it's like a whole meme to make fun of like suburban cul-de-sac culture. And it's so weird that like the mental gymnastics that these reactionaries have to do to like somehow take in this culture as theirs. It's ridiculous.
It's weird. I want to do like a series where like specifically about video games, because that's my thing more so than movies, where like I analyze like video games that aren't really political, but I just analyze them from a political lens. Well, I've been playing a lot of Halo lately, and like rewatching all the cutscenes and like playing the games and stuff, like especially the first three because those are the only good ones. It's like Halo is very, very overtly political. Like the entire I don't know if you're familiar with it.
I've played the first one. I remember the Flood. I remember the Covenant or whatever, but I don't really remember anything besides like shoot and kill them.
Yeah, but like the Covenant have like multiple species. And so like basically the leaders of the Covenant, called the Prophets, make a deal with the second strongest species, like, hey, you let us be able to, create your leaders and we will stop like killing all of you. And so it's like, okay. And so like they basically have like controlled opposition as their thing to placate them. And then in Halo 2, the guy that they want to go on a suicide mission as the leader learns that the Prophet's whole goal of firing the rings is going to kill everyone. And so it's like, it's very open and blatant, like, oh yeah, the project that you're all working toward will get everyone killed. So it's like the Prophets are like the Republicans, where it's like, yep, your whole goal will result in everyone dying. And then like the main secondary class, like the elites, are like, you know what? That sounds great, because they don't know that everyone's going to die. Let's just do it. And then they realize like, oh wait, no, we don't want to die. So then they rebel, and then they fucking like kill them all, and it's epic and it's great. And I love that part.
All right. Maybe I need to play some more Halo. Have you played?
They're on PC now, so
yeah, I think I've got them like the Xbox Game Pass or whatever for PC. I don't know. I'm trying to think of stuff like, well, you said it's not overtly political. I think a game that like radicalized me when I was a kid was, I say kid, I was 18 and going in the Marine Corps, was Metal Gear Solid. Like that.
I played that. Yeah.
That really got me thinking about things like smart treaty and like, yeah, and it's like, oh, okay. So that was kind of a stepping stone. I remember playing that before I went to boot camp, like for the Marine Corps, and it's like, and getting out and then like being an admin guy and like kind of being exposed to some of that stuff. I was like, oh, okay. But I'm trying to think of anything else.
I would love to do that, because there's so many games that like, they're not political, but they have societies. And obviously everything is political. So like if you just analyze like, oh, how is the societal structure of some random game, like, oh, well, this, like, who are the people that are bad or supposed to be the villains, like what, like why are they the villains, like thinking about like what makes them the villains. Like one of my things is like I kind of shifted from being a gaming personality to a political person, that I kind of want to find a way to like have a fine like combination of those. And so like this is something I've been thinking about, is I want to get like a bunch of games that aren't necessarily overtly political, but just analyze them politically. And it's, again, I'm just talking about like random stuff. Like it doesn't even need to be heavily story based or anything.
I think that's completely feasible, especially because if you treat it like a book club, and especially I don't feel like playing through a game, but I could watch all the cutscenes like of whatever, and then be like, oh, and then like discussing that stuff. That comes to mind is like Spec Ops: The Line, which that's very political. I can only think of the stuff right now that's like political. Spec Ops: The Line. Some of the satire of like the GTA games I think are really good.
Oh yeah, definitely. GTA is very, very, very delicious when it comes to satire, of course.
But yeah, if you would like that, I would definitely work on that with you. As far as like, I think you should treat it like a book club and be like, this month is whatever, and then talk about that like at the end of the month or whatever. But yeah,
that could be fun.
I think it'd be a good deal.
Yeah,
Well, I think I've stolen enough of your time. Why don't you tell us about? I'm lazy and I don't feel like editing out any profanity or anything. So I'm definitely going to do this on Thursday. So you can plug whatever you want. What are you working on? Where can we find you? What are you working on? What games are you playing?
Okay, so
promote all the things.
Is called speed.dog. Not .com, .dog. So that's my homepage that I haven't updated in almost a year. So it's not the greatest homepage, but you can find all the links that you need. It's got my YouTube channel, Cyberdemon531.
That's very Angel Fire.
That is a monster from Doom, which is my favorite game. And I've considered changing it, but one of my things that keeps me from doing that is I get a lot of MAGA boomers that think, oh, you're calling yourself a demon, you're from Satan and hell, and that's too delicious for me. So it's like, yeah, so you can go to my website. You can click on all the links you need. I got a Discord server. I got all that stuff. My YouTube channel is kind of segmented in like, I want it to be one of my major projects is building like some sort of 24-hour like leftist politics channel. That's something I'd really like to work on more. Um, and because like I said, I was a streamer, I streamed for like 16 hours a day, and I'm used to segmenting up things. So my YouTube channel has got lots of different content series lists. So above it all is my main series where I just react to news stories, talk about them, explain, like, that's the main stuff. I've got another series called Cooking with the Bitch, which is where I make food. And I talk about how good it is to be a vegetarian, why meat eating is bad. And if you eat meat, I will disown you. I will cancel you. You will be canceled eternally. Get canceled. Anyway, I've also got another series called Halo and Chill, which is where I play Halo multiplayer and talk about random stuff. Recently, I've been talking about dreaming and meditation and kind of exploring the subconscious. So that's like another thing that I'm doing. I'm a very spiritual individual. At least I try to be. I'm getting there. And so my recent beat is lucid dreaming. I've been doing that every night. I try my best to dream and lucidly, and it's been very fun. I've learned a lot about myself, and it's helped me with like PTSD. It's very, very useful. So if you want to hear like more about that, I've got a playlist for that. And I've also got like other random video game stuff as well. And I'm always trying to work on new things. But yeah, that's the gist.
It's fucking rad. So yeah, and like always, I guess actually not always. We don't plug our Patreon enough. You can also
I've also got a Patreon.
Oh, tell us about your Patreon.
I got a Patreon.
Yes, lady.
Give me money.
Yeah, you need money.
Or else. Thank you.
Or else you'll be canceled, and you won't even know you're canceled.
Exactly.
The only way to not get canceled is to be a Patreon. And you can also go to our Patreon. Our rewards are coming. I know, y'all. It's just that we can't get a printer right now because of COVID. That's all. We're trying to do a thing where it's like we're trying to do koozies as like a reward, and we finally got like a koozie, like you put a can into so it stays cold. Like a little sleeve for a can.
Okay.
You've never seen a koozie?
I've never heard of that term.
What would you call that?
A cup holder, something like that. I don't know.
Cup holders are in cars. Koozies are in it's a whole drinking culture down here. But we're trying to do branded koozies, but we've got a union printer, but they're down because of COVID. But so those are coming. You can give money to our Patreon to keep this mess going at Good Morning Comrade /Patreon, I guess. If you just Google Patreon Good Morning Comrade, you'll find it. So
yeah, just Google it.
Google it, y'all.
Put that information into the Google machine.
Google it and give them the data. Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, any last words that you want to leave for the children?
With the children?
That's who listens to the show. It's just it's toddlers. This is kids programming.
Well, when am I on next? Is my first question.
We work that out whenever. Actually, I'll
be on every day if you'll let me.
Yeah, I mean, you could drop in whenever you want. You could drop in. Like I said, we record a couple times a week. We do Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you just want to do some chilled out gaming, that'd be cool. I used to play. Dude that was my best man at my wedding, and his husband and I used to play Path of Exile. We transferred.
I've actually got a series where I play that.
Yeah.
And I haven't done a video because my current league that I'm doing is where I get drunk and talk about my childhood and cry on webcam.
That's a lot.
Yeah, no, it's very emotional. So don't watch those if you're not, ready for that. I highly recommend not being sober when watching them so you can cry with me. Otherwise, it's just cringe.
Oh my God.
But I'm going to do some more of those soon. I do have some alcohol left. So this is my plastic bottle vodka.
Oh, only the best. The plastic.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's careful. That's rough.
Don't worry about me. I'm good.
Woo,
I'm still alive. That's all.
Are you just drinking that? What are you mixing that with? Please, God.
I don't. Whatever I have in the house.
All
Sometimes I drink it straight if I don't have anything else, but I don't drink often. I used to, around when my more problematic periods were like, when, the whole swatting, I started drinking every day. That was not great. And, I don't want to be sober because that's kind of lame. So I just drink like once a month now.
It's just like here in New Orleans, we have a very serious, like alcohol culture. Like every house, like everybody has a bar. Like, so it's just like,
Right?
we're like, I'll put you onto some better vodka. That's not going to break the bank. Like there's
if it's
decent
more
vodka.
than $10, and
There's
All
some
right.
decent stuff out there that'll
Okay.
not break the bank for sure. Well, we're gonna go ahead and cut out, and until next time, it's been Good Morning Comrade. Love you guys. Bye. Say bye, Andrea.
Bye-bye.
Bye.